All right, welcome back, everybody. Our next guest is going to be weighing in on Elon Musk and Tesla, the markets, and much more. We want to welcome billionaire investor Ron Barron of Barron Capital, the chairman and CEO there. And Ron, it's always great to see you. Thank you for coming in today.
Judy said don't use the word billionaire.
You didn't. You didn't. Unfortunately, we did, because we have to call it like it is.
All right, multi-billionaire. Fine.
Yeah, there you go.
So before we talk about this, I just want to know, did you guys see over the weekend the article on the front page of the New York Times? Do you read the New York Times at all?
No.
Yes, I do.
So passing by a newsstand, you could have seen it.
Needles in my eyes.
You could have seen it, and basically it was talking about how Elon has brought the internet, broadband, satellite to the Amazon in Brazil. Brought it to the Amazon. People don't have clothes, and now they have the Amazon. Now they have the internet. Unbelievable what he's done. Unbelievable, changing the world.
You know, it's been a big deal in Ukraine, too, on the war front. Hey, before we jump into what you think about Tesla and the pay package, whether you're going to vote in support of that, why don't we talk about how much you own? Because I was looking, and it looks like I've known you've been a very long-time holder. Some of your funds own 2.7%, 3%, 2.8%. The Barron Partners Fund is almost 30% long position in Tesla. So you are a massive shareholder.
It's also $13 cost. So, you know. So we've owned it since 2014, 2016. Between 2014, so I met him in 2010. 2014 and 16, it took me 4 years. He said, what took you so long? 2014 to 16, we invested $400 million, made about $5 billion at the peak. Now we made about $4 billion, sold about a quarter of our stock 3 years ago.
How much do you hold now, though, in total? How many shares?
I don't remember the number, but it's a big percentage of our assets. It's 7 or 8% of our assets in total.
So what do you think about this pay package? This is a pay package that shareholders approved once. This Delaware judge has overturned it, and now it's going back to the shareholders again. How will you vote your shares?
We're voting for the package. But before I talk about that, there's 3 things I want to discuss with you today. Number 1 is contracts, of course. Then I want to talk about Elon's ecosystem, you know, all the different things he's doing. And then Elon, I want to talk about that, what he's accomplished. So about the contract. So first of all, he was, you know, when we started, these numbers are pretty cool. Then when we started, when I met him in 2010, they were doing 2,000 cars a year. And then in 2014, it was 31,000 cars. That's when we started buying. In 2016, 76,000 cars. And last year, 1,800,000. So significant growth. And he made promises, if he met these metrics of EBITDA, of revenues, of market cap, that he would get this extraordinary compensation. And the compensation, when he started, when the contract was signed, it was the company's market value was $53 billion. It got as high as $1 trillion. And it's now $550 billion. I think in the next 10 years, we're probably going to make 4 or 5 times our money again in Tesla. So he's created tremendous wealth for people, and he was paid, if this contract is enforced, which I think it should be, he's paid $56 billion. So it's like winning the lottery, you know, if you, and Joe was talking about before, you win the lottery, you don't tell someone, oh, I'm sorry, you won so much money, you have to give it back.
I remember thinking at the time that the compensation deal was a crazy setup, but I also remember thinking at the time that I never thought he'd hit any of the metrics.
No one did.
He hit every one of the metrics. So it's hard to imagine taking that back and clawing it back.
Exactly. And so that's exactly how we viewed it. I said, man, if he hits this is fantastic. We're going to do so well. And again, I mean, he should have another contract going from this point going forward, where it's incented the same way, I'm hoping. So number 1, the contract. So 73% in 2018, 73% of the investors approved it. All of the disinterested parties who are directors, they approved it. And the people he has who are directors, these are not, just flakes. They are Larry Ellison, one of the wealthiest men in the world. Hiro Mizuno, he was the head of the Japanese, pension fund, the largest pension fund in the world, $1.5 trillion. Kathleen Thomas, Walgreens, Boots. So he had really, and of course Robin Denholm, who came later. But they all approved this, and they all thought this was a fair, fair agreement. So basically, number 1, all the disinterested directors approved it. Number two, that's the will of the company. The will of the company and the will of the shareholders, so I think he should be, it's a legally binding contract. And then who sued? You had an individual who was a shareholder for hire with 9 shares, sued. And it took him 5 years to get the derivative suit certified, but class action wasn't, so he doesn't really represent all the shareholders. And the lawyer who represented them, when you talk about getting lucky, he has applied to the court for payment of $5.6 billion. $5.6 billion. And then he is asking for the payment to be made in shares of Tesla stock, which are depressed because of this lawsuit. It's crazy. So I think that, it's really unfair the way they're addressing this, and I think that he earned it, and he deserves it, and he should be paid it.
You've said for a long time, when we've asked you what your biggest concern about Tesla would be, is the key man theory, that so much is riding on Elon Musk being there. If he's not there, you don't think the company is worth the same. So what do you think happens if this package is not approved? What will Elon do?
I can't see inside of his mind, but I know that he has created tremendous value for everyone. I know he has a big stake in Tesla. But when I started in business in 1970, one of the people who really helped me at the very beginning of my career was Jay Pritzker. He's Tom Pritzker's dad, and he's the founder of Hyatt. And we were talking about arrangements, and he said, Ron, if you need to have a contract, then you're doing business you're doing business with the wrong person. You can't rely on a contract to do business, and you have to. He's a handshake guy. So if I say I'm going to do something, I do something. We said, as Tesla as a company, Elon, if you perform, this is what you're going to get. How are you going to go back and renege on that, especially when all the directors and all the shareholders approved it? It's crazy. So I think, I've lost your question, but.
Andrew's got a question, too. I think.
Hey, Ron, as you know, we are in violent agreement together on this. I've always felt from the beginning that this was a big skin in the game arrangement for Elon Musk, and that a contract should be considered a contract. Having said that, I was reading the Wall Street Journal this morning, and they have a Heard on the Street column where they made an argument actually against voting in favor of it. And one of the things they said, which was very interesting, and I wanted to get your perspective on it, was they said a lot of the shareholders in Tesla today are not necessarily the shareholders who were the shareholders in 2018. So they're new shareholders. So they may not actually have the same sort of skin in the game or sort of feeling that you would have about this. Maybe on the basis of contract law they should, but a lot of them may see this as, frankly, just an opportunity. It's an opportunity to figure out how much money they're going to pay Elon Musk, and also how much that is ultimately going to cost them, at least in the short term. And so I would ask, what would you tell a new shareholder who maybe wasn't there in 2018, how they should think about this? And it's very unique. Because the question is prospectively. They're paying for something that happened in the past, but in many ways they're paying for something that is hopefully going to happen for them in the future.
Well, you're buying in right now at half the price it was 3 years ago. And in part, that's because of this controversy over this contract. So this is actually in your favor. And if he weren't to devote himself the way I believe he will devote himself to the company continuing, then you would be damaged as a new shareholder. You're buying into a company where you have one of the most exceptional, maybe the most exceptional, executive in this country, in the world, running your business. Do you really want to not treat him properly? Last year there happened to be, so Tesla has 140,000 employees. To show you how desirable it is to work there, the most number one and number two jobs that are desired by graduates from the top engineering schools are Tesla and SpaceX. Last year, Tesla had 12,000 new hires. And 12,000 new hires, they had 6 million applicants. 6 million applicants for 12,000 jobs. And so think about that. The reason they have it is not because the name Tesla, not because of cars, it's because of him. And so think about his ability to attract these great people to come to this business, to grow it and run it and make changes that are benefiting the entire planet. And you want to renege on a contract, on a deal you made with him?
Yeah,
It doesn't make
Ron,
sense.
let me ask you, I agree 100%. He should be paid what he was promised in this contract. And the shareholders are crazy if they don't do that. But there are questions about what will incentivize him further. What makes him stay with Tesla? What makes him keep his AI plans within Tesla when he is starting xAI, an alternative AI startup? Do you need to incent him further? Because he has basically said that he thinks he should own about 25% of the voting control at Tesla, or he won't build it there.
It's interesting, the Elon, so we'll now go to the Elon ecosystem. And he has xAI, which we're going to be an investor in. And what that is that comes about because Elon needs compute, massive amounts of compute.
You're an investor in xAI because of the ownership you have, because you're an owner in Twitter or in X as well? Is that,
And
you put an additional money in?
Yes.
Okay, but what about for Tesla shareholders who don't invest in all of those?
They're going to benefit from the fact that xAI has been created because of the massive compute. I mean, they're going to build 100,000 GPU data centers. So the data center business historically is the cloud business, and it's been growing 20, 30% a year in units, the cloud. That's Amazon AWS. That's what that is. And their returns on capital have been declining. Now it's about 7%. It was in the high 7s. It's now about 7. And those are centers that are $300 million.
But let me just ask, we can talk a little bit more about this, but the issue that comes up is the potential conflict. To have somebody who's partially at Tesla, who's partially at SpaceX, who's partially at X, who's partially at xAI, how are you knowing if you're getting your money's worth? How are you knowing, instead of having it all under one umbrella, like all your funds are under one umbrella, how do you make sure that there's not a conflict of interest? There was a CNBC story yesterday that took a look at xAI, Elon sending NVIDIA information asking
Chips.
that the chips that were granted, that were there in line, that for Tesla be given to xAI instead. And that raises the question of shareholders who are not invested in the entire Elon ecosystem. Do they run the risk of being shortchanged when Elon moves things from one project to the next? If you have Tesla employees who are working at Twitter part-time, if you have things that get moved around, how do Tesla shareholders benefit from the Elon infrastructure?
All related party transactions are reviewed by the directors and audit committees and independent people to make sure that they're appropriate and fair to every company. All these companies benefit each other. Elon spends way more than half of his time on Tesla compared to all these other entities that he's doing. But these are all the entities, they're all benefiting Tesla. And as far as the chips that went from NVIDIA to xAI, it was because Tesla has invested tremendously in data centers for themselves. 50,000 is one that they're building right now, GPUs. 25,000 is the largest it's ever built before, and our guy is building 100,000, the new one. So we think about AWS. AWS comes about because they had too much capacity for the cloud, so therefore when they had excess, they sold it. That's what xAI is. In addition to that, xAI creates Grok. Grok ultimately is going to be your assistant. You would drive around in a car. Also, Tesla is going to be able to use the compute that's been produced by and owned by xAI. xAI got those chips because Tesla, so many X's, that he has over-ordered. He doesn't need them right now. He's buying them later, so xAI needs them now. We have nowhere to store them at Tesla. So xAI gets these chips, but the next level is coming to Tesla. So basically, it's about who needs them right now, and then here's this excess.
I mean, it makes perfect sense for somebody like you who's invested in all of these different things because you're going to win on either side of it. Is there an argument that Tesla shareholders should have a stake in xAI too?
Well, they're going to be using the services, and then the xAI is going to be getting benefit, I presume, of some sort for selling the services back to Tesla. But Tesla's avoiding a cost that they would otherwise have to invest in chips, to invest in these data centers. These data centers are $3 or $5 billion now. They used to be $300 million.
So your point is, as long as an independent board oversees this and signs off on these decisions, it's okay?
Yes. So that's the case in all instances. But he has this whole infrastructure now where all these businesses, whether it's... So one of the things I was asking about, I said, well, gee, when he bought Twitter and renamed it X, where did that, and he said he bought it because he wanted to have the ultimate truth-seeking algorithm. And then all of a sudden, we've learned that we have data that X has that is unique, real-time, no one else has it. So what's going to be commoditized is this foundational, the chat GPTs and Groks ultimately. But what is unique about Grok is this data. So when he bought Twitter, did he have in his mind that there's the opportunity to have this data of tremendous value for licensing? When he decided he wanted to go to Mars for SpaceX, with SpaceX, did he really think initially that, hey, there's a real opportunity here for internet around the world, and there's going to be hundreds of billions of dollars of revenue opportunity? When he started off with EVs for Tesla, did he really think that this is really going to merge into self-driving, where you can make hundreds of billions of dollars a year of extra profits? And Grok, to here, this is going to be self-driving, and you're going to have connected cars all around the world from SpaceX. All these businesses link up to, it's the ecosystem. It's the Elon ecosystem. And I think it's really interesting when you look at it in that way. So Elon benefits where all these businesses are on, and he couldn't have attracted the engineers he wanted to attract for artificial intelligence to Tesla. They didn't want to work at Tesla. Right. So he's got, you remember, OpenAI, he's the founder. And ChatGPT, that comes out of him. He just didn't like the way it was being run because it's supposed to be not-for-profit. And then all of a sudden, he's questioning the governance of it. So now he wants to have a competitor. So there's a control over it, so it can't damage humanity.
I just wonder, as an investor, clearly he has been incredible with what he's done for Tesla. I just wonder, as an investor, if you worry about the future, about what it means for Tesla. And again, if you're not invested in all of these, no question that Elon's got this halo effect, and people want to come work for him. He is a huge draw on all of these issues. I understand your thought about him being the key man on all of this stuff. Would you invest now at these prices just in Tesla, or would you invest in other Elon companies instead?
The biggest investment we have right now is in Tesla.
Yeah, but your dollar cost average was what, $13? Would you buy at $176, or would you try and get into XAI, or would you try and get into SpaceX?
Well, XAI, we're going to have $150 million invested. Yeah. In SpaceX, we invested from 2017 to now, we've invested about $1 billion. It's worth $2.3 billion. Tesla is worth about $4 or $5 billion.
But your new money is going to his newer venture.
If I had a chance to buy more stock in Tesla right now, I'd buy more stock in Tesla.
Well, you can't. Why?
Well, because I have limits as far as what percentages I'm allowed to buy for these individuals.
Because you're full up on your Tesla.
Plus, I don't have infinite capital. And so when I have chances to buy, I recommend, when we get new accounts, bigger positions I'm able to buy in Tesla, I buy. In SpaceX, I think in SpaceX we're going to double our money over the next 3 or 4 years and double it again in 2 or 3 years after that. And then in the 2030s, make 5 times. I think we're going to make 20 times in SpaceX over the next 15 or 20 years. I'm 81. There's not many people who are 81 who are thinking about 15, 20-year time horizons, but I'm one of them. In Tesla, I think in the next 15 years, next 10 years, we're going to make 4, 5, 6 times our money. But I can't even put a top on how much we're going to make in Tesla because there's so many businesses. This robotics business is going to be unbelievable. With robotics for him, I think that it's going to cost $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for a robot, but there's billions of people on the planet. He thinks everyone's going to have a robot, and you're going to charge money. This is like the ecosystem again, where you're going to get charged every year for software for using your robot. That's going to keep getting better and better and better. And when you think about a factory worker gets $100,000 or $200,000 or $150,000 a year, and all of a sudden you have robots that are able to do that, to make all these factory workers more and more productive. And Elon says that GDP is the number of people times the product you produce. All of a sudden you're not going to need the people to produce the product. Everyone's lives is going to be dramatically better because of AI, because of robotics. Robotics are going to be a really big deal for Tesla And that is not in the stock in any way, shape, or form.
I understand the robotics angle. I understand the self-driving and using AI and the information that Tesla already has as a huge treasure trove. I think I'm a little less convinced about using Twitter/X as a huge treasure trove, just as I am Reddit, because you can have any number of opinions and any number of stuff that sometimes is factual, sometimes is not. That makes makes a little less sense to me.
They have a new service that they've actually had it for a while on Twitter that was ignored. It's called Community Spaces. And I don't remember exactly how many people there are on it, but they crowdsource opinions. So if you have an opinion about a topic and someone posts a topic on Twitter or on X that is contrary to your belief, well, you're notified by Community Spaces. If you're one of these 70,000 outsourced people or anyone who has an interest in this before or posted on it before, you're notified that this has been posted. Do you think it's accurate? So it's outsourced. And then a very large percentage of postings have actually been taken down by the people who post them when they've been criticized for being false. And so you're having a truth-seeking opportunity here, and that data that they're going to have is going to help robotics for Tesla. So everything feeds each other. Every single thing he does is helping everything else he does.
You are a huge believer in the ecosystem. You have been since the start. It's made you an awful lot of money. And again, for people who are just tuning in, you're here today to say that you are voting your shares in favor of Elon Musk's pay package.
I'm voting my shares in favor, and I'm told that I'm not supposed to tell anyone else about how to vote their shares because it's proxy solicitation. But I'm voting my shares, and I think that's the benefit. By the way, just to give you a feeling for how other people think about him, Jensen from NVIDIA, right? He says the technology that Elon has for self-driving is remarkable, not like anyone else. Mobileye, competitor, says it's amazing what they've done with this company. I also think that when you look at Apple, at NVIDIA, how did they make it? They made it because they had something that was good for games, for gaming. When Amazon came along, and what Amazon had was they were a bookseller, and look what that's come from them. Yeah. Tesla has cars. The cars are going to be like books or like games for the other companies. Cars are a business for them. They have all this other technology. This company is going to be an enormous company. I love Tesla.
Ron Barron, I want to thank you for coming in today.